Welcome, welcome! This is the first part of our unit on laying the foundation to understanding biology. So welcome to the first fun bit. Before we get into actual biology, we must first lay a solid foundation upon which to build, which means the chemistry of biology. So why are we starting our biology course by looking at chemistry? Well, at the foundation of biology actually lies chemistry. At most schools, we tend to have everything presented to us in a very sorted out kind of manner, right? We have our chemistry courses that are separate from our physics courses, that are separate from our biology courses. But in the natural world, in the real world, right? Things are not neatly packaged this way, right? In the natural world, and the properties of the natural world, everything interacts. Everything's built upon everything else. And so really it's all about building this solid foundation of understanding. So what do I mean by this, building a foundation to help us with our understanding? Well, let's look at a virus, for example, right? In order to understand how a virus such as the coronavirus, attacks a human cell, we first need to understand several fundamental things before we can actually understand how this virus biologically as a whole works, right? First, we must understand the proteins that make up the coat of the virus. And then we need to understand the molecules that make up those proteins to understand the proteins that make up that virus. And within those molecules, we have to understand the atoms that make up these molecules, right? So we have to go all the way down to the foundational base level, starting all the way down at atoms and molecules and building our way up, right? So atoms and molecules, that's chemistry. And when we piece all this together and understand the foundation of it all, we can build on it to then understand life and biology. So as we move through this very brief section on the chemistry of biology, we're going to be discussing atoms and molecules, the properties of water, eventually the properties of carbon and macromolecules. I want you to keep an open perspective, and at each step along the way when we're learning about chemistry components, I want you to think about things from the perspective of how does this inform us about biology? And how does this inform us about life? So here we have a rundown of our timeline for this discussion, this first discussion on the chemistry of biology. I've broken it down into 6 sections for you, so feel free to explore it in the order that works best for you. This is my recommended order, but feel free to have your own adventure in this educational endeavor, okay? So throughout this discussion, we're going to be looking at definitions of certain chemical components such as matter and elements. We're going to discuss ions. We're also going to talk about bonds, chemical bonds versus intermolecular forces. We're going to go over electronegativity and polarity. We're going to be discussing acidity and pH. And we are also going to be discussing water properties, and how water is so essential for life, right? So already you can see how these topics are going to tie in with laying a foundation for understanding life biology.